Alright, let's chat real quick about some basics to gameplay. Melee, ranged, how it works, what your job is, what you do, what your character does, how it works. Yeah, let's dive into melee first. So as a melee character, you can go into combat by hitting your combat button, pull out your weapons like this, and you will swing automatically on a timer. Now that timer is based on your quickness stat, as well as the weapons that you're using. So if you're using certain types of weapons, you'll swing a little bit faster. So if I target this little tree buddy here, go into combat mode, I will just swing against him. There it is. There it is again. I'm swinging. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just swinging. You see my character is evading, parrying. That's a chance when I get hit. But I'm just swinging. I'm not using any abilities. That just happens from being in combat mode. I do use my sort of styles that I have for being a melee character. You see it starts to look a little bit cooler. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. I'm debuffing. I'm landing things. I just stunned him, so that tree is straight up stunned. Can't play right now. Right? And imagine this is PvP. That character is stunned. That's something that I can do just with my melee abilities. Your role as a melee character is going to vary depending on what type of class you're playing, and honestly, if you're not sure, I'd just ask. But you're generally either going in and disrupting the enemy team, you're pumping out a ton of damage, or you're peeling for your own team. That's generally what melee characters focus on. And a huge part of melee characters is what is called positional styles. So I don't know if you can tell in the video, but on my second bar here, this first ability is called Ice Storm. And in the fourth sort of row of text down, it says opening to the side of target. So I can only use Ice Storm if I'm on the side of my target. But if I do, and if it works, that yellow text down below, it says target cannot move or take any other action for 5 seconds. That's sort of the reward for landing Ice Storm, is I get a stun for 5 seconds on the target. So if I target this tree, you'll see he's facing to the right now. I'm on his side. If I push Ice Storm, he's stunned for 5 seconds. Now imagine in PvP, some guy's on your healer, you run up to the side of him and stun him for 5 seconds, your healer's able to get away, and the fight's totally different. It's the same thing with being in front of your target, with being behind your target. It's a really big part of melee combat in this game. Part of what makes it very sort of deep and rewarding is that you can sort of react to positions and use it to your advantage. Now on top of that, you also have openings for things like when you parry. So that's what you see here. It says you parry, as well as things like when you evade. So I'm just going to let this tree attack me. See what happens. I'm swinging. I'm swinging. I'm swinging. I'm not getting any parries or evades right now. I did get a parry there, which we can see in the chat box, and another one right there. You parry the blow. So when I parry, there's an evade where I step to the side. If you see that happen, you can push these, and it's going to trigger that ability, and it'll only work if you have evaded sort of within a pretty tight time frame of pushing it. So if you see your character evade, you're going to have to pretty quick push that evade ability. But if you do, the reward here is they're going to bleed for 8 seconds, and then you also, let me kill him so he stops beating me up. It's kind of distracting. So if we land that evade style, they're going to bleed. But then I also have a follow-up that you can only, this one says the opening is Blinding Rain. And Blinding Rain is the thing that we can use because we evaded. So if we evade, we get the bleed. We can then use Blizzard, which you can only use if you get the evade style, and that reduces their attack speed by 21% for 20 seconds. On the parry side, if I parry, I can push that. It reduces their armor factor, makes me do more damage, great. But the follow-up to that ability is that they cannot move or take any other action for 7 seconds. That's a 7-second stun as a result of me parrying and then getting my follow-up style. So in combat, things can start to change very quickly if you parry, right? Because all of a sudden you're losing and then you get a parry style and they're stunned for 7 seconds. You run behind them, you start pumping out this other stuff that does a lot of damage. You're behind the target, that type of thing. The fight can change real quick. Those spellcasters in Dark Age are ridiculously strong, but they have a sort of balance to that I'll show here in a second. But here is the example of a wizard on Albion. I'm going to target this poor guy right here. I've got 2 spells lined up. Both of them are called, well, you can see in yellow it says a magical bolt, shoot towards the target. If I push them back to back, 1, 2, he's dead. He's just gone. That can happen out in PvP. It's not common, but it could absolutely happen. So imagine you're playing this character, you're up on the wall, people are attacking your castle, and you shoot that down on them, it's going to end pretty poorly. Now, they also have other crazy spells, like this one is a little bit harder to understand, so I'll right-click on it here. Ebullient Blast, great name. Note the target here, it says targeted area of effect, and the radius under area radius is 350. So if I have a target, like this poor guy out here, or this guy, imagine a radius being drawn in every direction that the spell is going to apply to. So if I, let's say, target this guy, cast that spell over and over, it nukes just everything within the vicinity of my target. So again, imagine that you're up on a castle defending your home, and there's all these guys coming in. Got a bunch of things on me right now. Let's get away from them and keep casting on them. Yeah, you can nuke and deal a ton of damage to people without them really being able to counteract all that much. This poor guy here, finish him off. There he goes. You'll notice that in that last fight I had to run away and sort of get some distance before I was able to keep casting. The reason for that is because, yeah, in this game if things are hitting you, you can't cast your spells. Technically you can, it's just a very low chance. And every caster, well, for the most part, every caster gets this ability called Quick Cast, which means that they have one spell that will not be interrupted, but it's only one spell, right? So you have to really make use of that. Let me demo it here. I'll pull one guy, little ant buddy here, to come beat on me. So he gets up to me. Imagine it's a player in PvP. I'm trying to cast spells. You can see in chat here, make this a little bit bigger. It says, Dragon Ant Fireguard attacks you, your spell is interrupted. And then I have to wait to cast more spells. So this is just not good right now. If I push my quick cast though, I can quick cast a spell that freezes him in place, and now I'm able to go create some distance, right? He's frozen in place. Get some distance, turn around, use my two handy dandy bolts we talked about earlier. Night night. So there's a balance to it. This applies to healers in this game. They get interrupted if you're hitting them, which is why putting like a little pet on a healer or throwing one of your melee guys on a healer can make a really big difference, because they're really not able to cast if you have something hitting them.